So in my last video surrounding the topic of DarkViperAu, we took a spin down memory lane to show the pattern of his behavior towards others, where I will say I got a couple of things wrong. However, most of what had been shown and said was factually correct. And even DarkViper himself commented on it, which highlights what he is trying to do here, and that is control the narrative. For he feels he needs to rewrite the past in order for his future to succeed. Recently he made an effort to do the same to a clip of him raging on Among Us, where he acts like he is responding to an allegation, when in reality it was a funny moment in his career. It does seem like he needs to maintain a status of being a misunderstood soul or a good person. In this video we'll be going through what DarkViper had been doing in his response to the commentary community, and showing what had been left out when showing things to make ChudLogic and others look bad, and to prove that he is of the superior mind. However, I'm afraid you aren't the only one blessed with autism here, Matthew Judge. So let's go through how DarkViperAu had twisted the evidence to suit his own narrative over the opposition.
I have never, in my entire life, experienced the level of concentrated stupidity that I experienced in the story that I'm about to tell you.
Kicking off the video, we come to DarkViper telling his audience that he has never been involved in something so stupid before, when he has started drama with others for the pettiest of reasons. For example, when he started drama with Friendly Baron because he made mentions, jabs, and didn't mention his name in one of his videos. He talks about this as to further drill in the narrative he is about to manufacture into the video response.
As you likely know, I'm not unfamiliar with people knowingly or unknowingly misrepresenting me on the internet, but this is the first time that YouTube's own screw-up caused this to happen. On November 10th, 2023, I submitted a takedown notice to YouTube because someone re-uploaded one of my videos.
When talking about the DMCA he had sent to ChudLogic, he backs this by calling it a re-upload, which is very disingenuous, implying that Chud had simply just downloaded the video and then just re-uploaded it to his channel with no commentary, no transformation, and especially no addition to the original content. However, if you are able to watch the video or any video or stream of ChudLogic's, you would see this isn't what he does. In fact, he gives feedback, criticism, his own slice of commentary along with his outspoken personality, something that wasn't in the original work. This is deceptive behavior coming from someone who heralds themselves as to be speaking nothing but the truth. His script is specifically designed like this to manipulate the viewer and to gaslight their own intelligence. And remember, Matthew does in fact script his rants and gives the recordings to his editors and then reviews the video once it has been made. So keep that in mind, as it will be important momentarily.
A fairly standard procedure, usually met with no resistance, and something I've done for years. This time though, YouTube wrongly rejected this notice, then proceeded to, for months, ignore literally every email sent to them by me or my lawyer, instead firing back an automated response every single time.
When speaking on YouTube wrongfully rejecting the notice for his DMCA because he said the entire video was his, which isn't correct, as the time Chud provides commentary and criticism, then those moments become his intellectual property, as he is giving commentary and his critique of DarkViper's points, attempting to understand his perspective in all of this, which can also be seen to be analysis, something that DarkViper dismisses because it just so happens to debunk his claim that he was ethically right to claim the video. No matter how many times he covers up these little details, the YouTube process saw that Chud provided more content than DarkViper did, seeming as his video was nearly 10 minutes long and Chud's video was 35 minutes and 24 seconds long. But DarkViper will also say that addition doesn't mean it was fair use when Jessica Vogel, the person who wrote "Where's the fair use?" says in her document, transformation requires that the defendant add something new to the original work, altering it with new expression, meaning, or message, so as to change the purpose or character of the original work, meaning that addition can indeed mean fair use in one of the factors. And Jessica Vogel is a person who DarkViper himself sources in one of his many emails to YouTube, and he said that he had read the content of the document to get his understanding of what fair use actually entails, but I bet he didn't read all of it.
If this dispute had remained private, that would have been one thing, but YouTube's error and lack of review of this case led to some of the most dishonest and downright disgusting people to lie about me repeatedly to the masses. These people were ignorant of most details, so they just made shit up. What they did know and didn't like, they just selectively ignored. So that's a basic overview of the story, but let's get into the nitty-gritty detail.
DarkViper then talks about other content creators who covered the story are, quote, disgusting and dishonest people who are lying about him, which isn't the case at all. Most are simply talking about the controversy with their own opinions, calling him out on his bullshit. This is designed to poison the well. As he is saying here, you shouldn't listen to these people because they are dishonest and disgusting, that they are lying about me, which is deceptive, considering what he will go on to do in his own response, which is taking clips out of context to bolster his own argument and narrative. And he even goes further into this by saying they made shit up and are ignorant, when as stated before, they are giving an opinion based on their own understanding of the situation, not making things up. The only people who are ignorant of these claims are his diehard fans who will attack any video or anyone talking about him in order to keep the status quo. They recently did this to Carl Jobs, who voiced his own frustration with DarkViper when they began to call him a Nazi. While not all of his fans were doing this, it just goes to show you that anyone talking about DarkViper in a not so much positive light will suffer the wrath of the stands. We saw this in my past video where his fans had been going into the comment section and writing all kinds of stuff without even watching the video first, dislike bombing the video, to which I guarantee you DarkViper would use this as an example to say it was a terrible video, which is what he recently did to Cheeto, using the fallacy of Argumentum ad Populum, stating that the video was poorly received when the negative press came from his own toxic audience, flooding the video with dislikes and negative comments, regardless of what the context of the content was. So if DarkViper truly believes everything that is coming out of his mouth, then it is him who is truly ignorant.
What this user had linked was a recently uploaded reaction to my video, Am I Jealous of Jack's Film's Success with Credit the Creators? This reaction being done by the reactor, ChudLogic. I came to learn that Chud hosts watch parties, group discussion sessions, of other people's creative works quite frequently. He plays the original video in full, without alteration, traditionally ignorant of the contents of the video beforehand.
I wanted to watch this because... oh, wrong thing. Here we go. Apparently this video is very funny, so I guess we'll see. Let's watch this video. So it's Am I Jealous of Jack's Film's Success with Credit the Creators? As
I have explained to death, this overtly violates fair use law, which surprisingly Chud was willing to admit multiple times in his reaction.
Obviously, I am biased because I do react to things. I, feel I do a fair use job, even though not legally, but ethically. I kind of react to stuff pretty heavily. Because legally, I think that all of them fall under the same issue with, full reacting to the content that exists. Like, if you watch a 30-second TikTok, right? I don't think that's a big deal. And I think ethically or morally, it's not that bit crazy a thing. But from an IP perspective, you have breached that person's IP and they could legitimately file a DMCA request against you if they wanted to. Same with Asmongold Reacts. Yes, he talks a lot, but it includes the entire video.
So you must be thinking right now, oh, well, that's game over. He just admitted to being in the wrong. And that is the design of the deception here. However, when you look at the full context of the clip, it tells you a very different story. As DarkViper prides himself on taking only few small clips of other people's arguments to take them out of context to either poison the well or to show off his own superiority when addressing these points. To prove my point, here are both clips. We'll replay DarkViper's version first, and then we'll play ChudLogic's second, so you can see how much was taken out of context.
I think that all of them fall under the same issue with, full reacting to the content that exists. Like, if you watch a 30-second TikTok, right? I don't think that's a big deal. And I think ethically or morally, it's not that bit crazy a thing. But from an IP perspective, you have breached that person's IP and they could legitimately file a DMCA request against you if they wanted to. Same with Asmongold Reacts. Yes, he talks a lot, but it includes the entire video. And the thing is, I'm thinking, is he making like a legal distinction maybe? But then he couldn't be making a legal distinction because legally, I think that all of them fall under the same issue with, you know, full reacting to the content that exists. Like, if you watch a 30-second TikTok, right? I don't think that's a big deal. And I think ethically or morally, it's not that big crazy a thing. But from an IP perspective, you have breached that person's IP and they could legitimately file a DMCA request against you if they wanted to. Same with Asmongold Reacts. Yes, he talks a lot, but it includes the entire video. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there is no real legal distinction here. So it's all based, I think, on his perspective and his morals. But it's kind of inconsistent to me, and I just don't know why you would differentiate so heavily when there doesn't seem to be that much differentiation, to me at least.
See? He didn't let you see Chud's full argument because DarkViper needed to make Chud look like a fool to gain the satisfaction from it, because Chud hurt his feelings and insulted him. He only wanted you to see the first half of the argument that aligned with his narrative. This was very manipulative of DarkViper to show only one half of the argument, but not the other half, as it shows that he is more than willing to take creators out of context and has nothing to do with his feelings of fair use. And it's funny because one of Chud's criticisms here is about the way he goes about his campaign against reaction content, pointing out DarkViper's bias towards React streamers and not React videos, because he sees videos as taking more effort and skill to create rather than a live performance.
What does that mean? Sniper Wolf is taking people's TikToks, collecting them together, barely reacting to it and making that our own content. Like, you would surely, if you've got a problem with the React content, that would be a problem too. But he seems to be, I don't even understand what he means by that. It's happening after the fact. Yeah, all React content happens after the fact. Like, XQC's React content is after the fact, after the video's been made.
In my first essay, and I had no intention of mentioning her in it. And even Charlie said, why is Sniper Wolf not mentioned here? And
because it's not a live reaction. What difference does that make? Why does that make a difference? How is that a different I don't understand the difference between reacting to it on stream live and doing an edited video where you've literally just put together a bunch of different pieces of content to make a video of your own when you're not really adding anything to it. Because if you've genuinely got a problem with the kind of React content that XQC does, why would you not have at least similar level of issue with what Sniper Wolf does? But he's acting like Sniper Wolf is like less bad than XQC, and I just don't really see how that's the case.
When Sniper Wolf's reactions and commentaries are non-existent.
Bro just flew into the hoop!
And then 20 seconds later, plays the exact same clip with her exact same reaction.
Bro just flew into the hoop!
Literally a copy and paste job.
Something that DarkViper could easily point out for a new video to get an instant win on, but chooses not to address it, but would rather talk about streamers instead. And going back to Chud's argument, he says that SS Sniper Wolf, XQC, and Asmongold all fall under the same tree. You can't condemn one without condemning the others. And DarkViper here shows he is very much out of touch with his own campaign, hence why creators like Jack's Films, who do not discriminate, gain more recognition than he does.
Of course, I don't really care that it's illegal. I care more that it is grossly immoral for reasons I have also explained to death. I have no problem with commentary content, people making their own videos that require some use of other people's work for context. In fact, there are even some limited cases where I am okay with reaction content. For example, if you want to react to your own work, or other people's work that you are personally involved in. I am fine with people watching advertisements, and often even live events, assuming you're an official rebroadcaster. It is the people sitting around watching other people's videos in order to re-upload them to YouTube and avoid any work themselves that I dislike. Consequently, I filed a takedown notice of the re-upload of my work and the live stream it was in. I have done this in the past without issue, but this was the first time I had to do it since I made my videos explaining in great detail the market harm of reaction content.
He says here that he is okay with some limited cases of React content, which includes reacting to advertisements, your own work, other people's work, granting you are a part of that production, reacting to live events, assuming that you are a official rebroadcaster, and that is because an official rebroadcaster would be television networks or radio broadcasters. If they were to do the same thing as ChudLogic, then DarkViper would only be able to mold over it and have to take the L on that one, because radio and television networks would have the resources available to them to take him to court and destroy his arguments. However, I am with him on one aspect of this argument when addressing those who react to videos with no expression, sitting there, getting up, leaving the room, going to make a sandwich while the video audio is playing out to the stream, or this guy who is just opening and closing his mouth like a fish out of water. These reactions would not be considered fair use and would be considered copyright infringement, as they are not providing anything to the original work. No expansion, no additional content, they are simply streaming the content out. However, DarkViper has been guilty of this in the past as well, with his channel DarkViper8888, where he took other people's debates on atheists versus theists and simply just reproduced them into audio podcasts, which would be very hypocritical and not considered fair use, as he didn't even edit these videos, to which YouTube had demonetized him for it on that channel.
Often a lot of these debates had like very long-winded introductions or had like a high-pitched whine in the background, only went in one ear and stuff, and I would correct these for myself, but obviously no corrected versions existed on YouTube. So what I would do when I'd make these corrections is upload the audio form of these debates with like a still image to my YouTube channel. I thought nothing of it. I mean, this is early days, it's not like Content ID or you know, like I knew nothing about copyright at that point. I just thought I was doing kind of a public service. People really found it useful. And then I just reached the point where, well, partly because of fixing errors in the actual content, but also because people would ask for it and it would just make things simpler for everyone, I started uploading more of these audio debates to my YouTube channel. I didn't think I was harming anyone, and to be honest, I still don't. It was just something that benefited a lot of people. And the person being named ChudLogic gives you as much understanding as you need. I think my lawyer said it best when she unprompted stated that Chud seemed to express absolutely zero understanding of a single thing I talked about in my video. This obviously makes it very hard to care about what he said, let alone what someone that stupid has to say about anything.
People think he's an obsessed schizo. I mean, I'd never speak to this freak. There's no fucking way. He's a despicable, pretentious want nothing to do with him. Loser. He's a fucking loser. He's pathetic. He's a pathetic little fucking wretch as far as I'm concerned. Wait, what? What does that mean? I don't even understand what he means by that. What difference does that make? How is that a different I don't understand the difference. Why does that make a difference? But yeah, no, he's a fucking despicable little I really dislike this guy. I think he's a piece of shit. Yeah, I don't know. I just think he's a little rat. He's just got this like autistic obsession. It's obviously long because this guy's an autistic freak. This guy is a little autistic freak who types out essays in DMs. He's extremely pretentious. What an autistic little unlikable freak he is.
He also says here that his lawyer watched ChudLogic's video and came to the conclusion that Chud seemed not to understand a single thing in his video, which is interesting that his lawyer would say that when it's not relevant to the case of it being fair use or not. However, he only shows very small snippets of Chud asking things as to show him being confused, but doesn't provide the full clips. As I said before, he likes to take people out of context to make them look like idiots or fools or whatever.
To my surprise, my claim didn't go through and YouTube requested more information. So I answered their questions in full, to which they immediately rejected my claim. This was confusing because YouTube is not a legal body. It has no authority to declare what is or is not a violation of law, or what violations of copyright can be defended by an affirmative defense of fair use. It makes sense that public pressure would embolden YouTube to reject obviously frivolous claims, but in this case, literally my entire work was re-uploaded on another person's channel, and they have always taken down such instances before. In the re-upload itself, the person states that they do not believe they have the right to host a watch party of my work. They openly admitted their guilt.
He continues this narrative into the next part and begins to talk about Chud's video as a watch party and a re-upload, as if they are considered to be the exact same thing. He also references Chud's out-of-context statements as a way to further drill this into his viewers' minds and to back up the manufactured narrative. He then calls it a re-upload again, meaning nothing was added to the video, so here he is flip-flopping all over the place, thinking watch parties and re-uploads are the exact same thing, which it obviously isn't, as Chud is providing commentary, his critique of DarkViper's points, expanding upon his argument. It's a reaction commentary.
Now at this point, I had not said anything publicly, and people seem confused why. But if any of these people had even 2 brain cells to rub together, they wouldn't have been so confused. Chud leaked the statement I gave to YouTube's bot when it rejected my claim. I said outright that I was fully willing to go to court for this issue, and when you may go to court, it is in your best interest to shut the fuck up.
The screenshot he shows here is one of the many emails he had sent to YouTube, where he tells them that he is, get this, well versed in fair use law, when there is no such thing as fair use law. There is copyright law, but not fair use law, which seems to indicate that he isn't as knowledgeable about fair use as he likes to believe. See, fair use is an exception to copyright law, not its own law.
To give a very, very brief summary, my issues are with the market impact of reaction content. We have two groups of people, reactors and creators, but only one of these puts forth effort and incurs risk and cost. Both, however, end up with the same product for the market, even if one might spend a month and another million hour to achieve that. This is quite obviously not a fair or balanced system. In regards to viewer distribution, I view reactors as an inefficient secondary middleman. You can picture this as two competing models, one where viewers engage with algorithms and are directed to creators, and another where viewers engage with algorithms, are directed to reactors, and then go to creators. My claim is that that second model is inefficient by design and can only result in a net loss of value for creators as an aggregate.
Here he is talking about his claim, which is interesting wording there, as claim would mean that this isn't factual and has yet to be proven, which DarkViper has struggled to do in this entire video. You would have thought that he would have proven why Chud's content can't be considered fair use, considering he says he has explained before at great lengths. So explaining it again would be kind of easy pickings for him, considering he likes to harp on about doing research, but this is just a slim nitpick. Let's move on to the actual argument here. He compares reaction videos to slot machines. Yes, you heard that right.
Reactors give value to creators in a similar way that slot machines give wealth to their users.
Bringing up a diagram of how the algorithm works, which is the most basic view of it, showing that instead of the viewer being recommended the creator's video, they will instead be given the reaction first, which is misleading as the algorithm reacts off of what videos you have watched and how long you have watched for, in order to gain a grasp on what type of content you prefer to watch. So it will recommend that type of content out to you. So if I watch, say for instance, Carl Jobs videos, and I spend my time watching the videos all the way through from beginning to end, the algorithm will recommend me with more of his videos or videos that relate to what he covers or what he does. If you watch reaction videos, then I'm afraid you will be recommended more reaction content or similar content. It's that simple. It's designed to keep the viewer on the platform for as long as possible. His argument here is that reaction content provides no value to anything and is simply designed to steal views away from the original creator, that they are parasites, like how a slot machine is designed to take your money and sometimes give you a piece of the pie. However, my most recent videos seem to have gained quite a considerable amount of attention when being reacted to, which gave it more recognition and awareness of how my video even existed, and people from those streams went to watch the video, which pretty much destroys his argument here that people have no incentive to watch the original work when people are encouraged to do so, as people did watch my original video from the free reaction streams, creating more awareness to my channel, which at the time of writing this I gained 212 subscribers. So there is added value here if you open your eyes instead of burying your head in the sand. Also, given DarkViper's logic here, you would have thought that my video would have been stagnating on views, given one of his arguments against reaction content is that there are only so many views to go around and not an infinite number of impressions. Well, as you can clearly see, the views are going up due to the exposure. There are even channels out there that bait out reactors and their audiences when making content, such as Meat Canyon, who makes satire content through the use of animation to mock the YouTuber or the drama they are involved with. This video is meant to bait the reaction of the specific creator in the drama. However, no such argument is made towards these videos or even highlighting their existence, because it would go against the narrative.
Now, this video is a reaction to DarkViper. Make no mistake, like it is a reaction video. He watches the entire thing in full. But it's 35 minutes long, he adds a lot of commentary, and the original video was less than 10 minutes. So by that metric, about 26 minutes of the reaction is made up of commentary from Chud, where he transforms the original content.
Tom uses the word transformation as seemingly a synonym of addition, but it's not legally or how the word is generally used.
Oh really? then would you care to explain why the source you cited in your email says the complete opposite? That to transform the content, the defendant must add something to it? Even the US Copyright Office Fair Use Index says the exact same thing. Transformative uses are those that add something new, with a further purpose or different character, and do not substitute for the original use of the work. Seems you like to bend what is truth to suit your own agenda rather than being a reliable narrator.
In the reaction, my content is still there, unchanged, in full. It's like if you compared watching a movie by yourself or with a friend. Comparatively, absolutely, your friend can add something to that experience. You might enjoy yourself more, your experience would be different, but the content of the movie would not change even slightly. It would never be transformed, regardless of how many times you pause the movie to shit talk it. What Tom is expressing here is a general principle not meant to be specific to this case. So we could take the Lord of the Rings trilogy for example, which required thousands of people over many years and $500 million to make. To remain consistent, Tom would sincerely have to believe that I could reproduce that movie in full, as long as I paused it every once in a while and gave my thoughts.
DarkViper here makes a classic argument of comparing film and television copyright to that of a YouTube video, which is a terrible comparison to make as they aren't the same things and aren't protected by the same things. His argument is if someone were to react to the entirety of The Lord of the Rings from start to finish, occasionally hitting the pause button, then the studio or company would rightfully take the video down. However, he doesn't bring up all the factors as to why that could be, and only supports things that bolster his own argument and narrative. See, the reason film and television are different from YouTube videos is that the studio or company who publishes such media also protects against piracy with their trademarks, something that DarkViper's content isn't protected by. The difference between copyright and trademarks are copyrights protect primarily the rights of the person who created the original work, and trademarks are designed to protect the business and all of their intellectual properties and their assets. In the case of his argument, the Lord of the Rings films.
An interesting thing to note is that for the first time in 30 years, a fair use case actually made it to the American Supreme Court in 2022. To very briefly cover the case, the issue is whether this photograph being altered to look like this resulted in a new artwork with a different character and purpose, thereby constituting fair use, or whether it remains substantially similar to the original work, merely serving as a derivative work that infringed on copyrights. The district court judge said this was fair use, but when it was appealed, the Second Circuit judge came and said no, this was not fair use. It then went to the Supreme Court, where 2 of the justices said it was fair use, while 7 of them said it was not fair use. So you could say in the totality, 3 of the 11 judges called it fair use, while 8 of the 11 said it wasn't.
His next argument is about 2 photos, one being a simple redesign of the other photo, and brings up that 8 judges said it wasn't fair use, which I would love to see the source for that, but then says 3 judges said it had been fair use, which doesn't really help his case at all and kind of backs up ChudLogic's arguments in his original video, as it shows that fair use is up for speculation and interpretation. However, photo copyright is stricter than video audio copyright, as the main intention for this rule was to stop editors from reproducing photos in their newspapers and magazines, which hardly applies to that of a YouTube video. Again, he does this to bolster his argument, not taking into account if the argument even supports his claim or not, or if it is a fair comparison to make here. Oddly enough though, he doesn't show the screenshots from Jessica Vogel's document, as she even talks about these things when addressing the need to make a DMCA reform in the defense for reaction content, which goes against DarkViper's arguments for fair use. And remember, this is something he cites as a source for his understanding of how fair use works.
People seem to wrongly have this idea that if you just add something to someone else's work, then it is immediately fair use.
And Rockstar, given this line of logic, would be able to put a stop to his career if they wish to do so. Here is a question to the Viper Knights in the comments section, yeah? How does DarkViper transform the gameplay and story of GTA 5 or even Red Dead Redemption for that matter, if none of the same rules apply to ChudLogic? Ah, see, that's a bit of a brain twister for you. Rockstar even specifically states that YouTubers are not allowed to profit from their videos when using footage from their games or promoting cheating such as glitches in their videos or even mods. So if Rockstar felt like they wanted to do this, they could remove his entire existence off of the internet, considering he is a GTA 5 YouTuber.
I am sorry, but that just is not the case. If you want more information, I have an entire series on it, but every decision in regards to fair use is against the idea of watch parties specifically being fair use. Some other things people stupidly call reactions, like commentary content, can be fair use, but not watch parties. How skilled you are at pressing the pause button and having a discussion with your chat is entirely irrelevant. To be fair, that doesn't mean definitively that there isn't going to be some hallmark case in the future where the guidelines of fair use are somehow going to be redefined so that the written words mean the opposite of how they have been interpreted in the past. Even legal professionals do disagree on fair use. It is simply that right now, nothing supports watch parties being fair use, regardless of how many times you press the pause button during it. No amount of watering down the idea of transformation will ever change that.
He again refers to Chud's video as a watch party, which shows he doesn't fully understand the point and purpose of Chud's video. So he is unable to assess whether or not Chud's usage is fair use. He furthers this by saying how pausing the video to have a discussion with his audience is irrelevant, which is dodging the point. He should have given a better explanation as to why pausing the video, providing commentary and analysis, wouldn't be considered fair use. Given he is the one making this claim, it is not fair use. But he doesn't explain nor prove his points with adequate evidence. Instead of a resolution to this issue, he would rather just act in isolation, not communicating with others to come to a common agreement. And with this video as evidence, we can see that he doesn't possess an open mind to the prospect of the other side, seeing things from the other perspective. As I said in my last video, it's his way or the highway. He isn't interested in gaining a better understanding of fair use, but only his own understanding, which is very convenient.
If you're reviewing an album, I think you should be able to play the entire album, every single second of it, so long as you're constantly adding commentary. If the viewer wants to go listen to that album, and that album alone, it's extremely easy to find that on YouTube for free in the same way that they would see that review. But if they're watching your review, it's my belief that they must want your commentary, not just the commentary of the original piece. They want to see you react to it.
Music will always be a bad example because a song can be listened to hundreds of times. You can still be listening to the same song decades later.
He then makes the argument that music will always be a bad comparison because songs can be listened to hundreds of times when films, TV shows, videos, and VODs can be watched hundreds of times. You can read a book hundreds of times. You can play a video game hundreds of times. What's your point? He then makes a bad comparison to say that he could add a minuscule asset to a video game, then resell the game at a lower price, when, as I said before, this wouldn't be possible due to copyright infringement and trademarking from the publisher, something that isn't comparable to the automatic copyright of a YouTube video. And the point he is trying to make here isn't what Tom was getting at, as he said, quote, "I am somewhat critical of this part of fair use law. In my opinion, you should be able to play someone else's entire original work as long as you add to it," which means adding something of value to the original work, not a minuscule thing, such as a picture of a dog to a loading screen. And that something of value being added is up to interpretation and isn't pre-established, something to be taken into consideration, to which DarkViper makes no effort to even understand Tom's argument, misrepresenting Tom's point and creating a straw man argument in the process.
Even if you are like a big DMCA guy, right? Like, are you just gonna like DMCA every single clip someone posts of you on YouTube because it's not technically fair use? Like, what kind of precedent is this setting? Like,
we each use the law not to the maximal degree that we can, but exclusively when it helps us achieve ends we desire. For all I know, it could be illegal for the kids in my street to run on my lawn. I don't know if it is because I don't care if they do. In the same way that I don't usually care if people use clips of my stuff or make memes of my work. I don't care if people make their own videos responding to mine and need to use parts of my work for context. That is all fine. But I will combat the harm that reaction content does in any way that I can.
See, here he is saying that he doesn't care if people use clips of his stuff, but when people had been re-uploading clips of his videos for archival purposes or to laugh at his antics, he strikes the clips down. So it shows that he does care if you show clips of his when people are making fun of him. This is something that even PewDiePie had said in one of his interviews, stating that if you are going to make this type of content, then you need to be able to laugh at yourself himself and not take it too seriously, something that DarkViper has yet to learn here.
Since then, ChudLogic has been going hard on Twitter, calling his fans insufferable freaks, pulling an old clip of Viper saying the gamer word that, according to Chud, he DMCAs off of YouTube. Here's a clip in which DarkViper says
the N-word.
Seems like this hasn't been widely seen before. That's because DarkViper allegedly DMCA'd the person who uploaded the clip to YouTube. To be clear, I don't personally care about the word. I just feel it demonstrates DarkViper's willingness to use the DMCA system to take things down he doesn't like, rather than to remedy breaches of copyright.
I have referenced the existence of this clip at least a dozen times, but more importantly, I am the rights holder. Of course, I'm going to take down the things I don't like that serve no constructive purpose and keep up those I do like or serve some purpose.
You make your incompetence sound like an achievement.
He then contradicts his statement here by saying of how he takes stuff down that he feels makes him look bad, which can be seen to be why he took down Chud's video, because Chud's arguments and criticisms would make him look bad when pointing out his bias towards streamers versus content creators who do reaction content. He then talks about how he won't take any action against videos that serve a purpose, such as constructive criticism or videos he likes. So I guess we can consider that he thoroughly enjoyed my last video or felt the content were constructive, as he hasn't attempted any form of a takedown yet, despite the lengthy article he wrote in the comments section calling me a goddamn liar and emotionally compromised, which is very rich coming from the boy who cries about not having friends, a girlfriend, and not seeing his family very often, when he proactively cuts people out of his life for the smallest of reasons, and especially when he takes people out of context to make them look like they don't know what they are talking about.
The next video is by the creator Bowblax with his series Twitterverses, where he apparently is meant to encapsulate both sides of a feud on Twitter. In reality, he created what was easily one of the most dishonest videos I've ever seen, where he signal boosts any disgusting or false claim he can find and actively ignores everything else. This assessment is not just my opinion, but the majority opinion, to the degree that he apologized in a community post and made a second video to make things more balanced. I sincerely doubt the one-sided slanderous nature of his first video was a mistake, but it is rare where a video about me is declared shit before I even see it.
DarkViper here says that the video was slanderous, that he showed DarkViper mimicking a character saying the N-word on stream and providing a screenshot from his 14-page document. He does say in his response to this that the comparison he makes here is of him mocking reactors for not asking for consent to react to things. But in the past, he's called it an analogy, which doesn't make any sense, as an analogy is made to help get a point across. But I guess the analogy he made in the speedrunning Discord was just a joke as well. How very convenient. See, DarkViper's analogy, as he so calls it, is that because reactors don't ask for permission before reacting to someone else's content, then they must be likely to avoid asking for consent when at a party. However, this isn't an analogy, as an analogy is a comparison of two things to show their similarities to help get the other person to understand their point better. A famous analogy in the film Forrest Gump was, life is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get. Which means life has many surprises and choices, just like a box of chocolates. Or another one would be, we've been looking for an apartment in Geneva for 6 weeks, and it's like finding a needle in a haystack. A false analogy, or faulty analogy, is the fallacy of comparing two things that share something in common, but not all things in common. So for DarkViper's case, he is saying that because reactors don't ask the original creator for consent, then they must not ask for consent at a party or when on a date, making them untrustworthy, stating that people should cover their drinks, implying that the reactor would slip a pill into their drink or attempt to drug them, comparing the reactors to rapists because they both don't ask for consent. But they are entirely two different examples, making it a terrible comparison. If DarkViper had used this analogy in his academics when studying social science, I don't think he would have passed the course, and probably would have got kicked out for it. His next point is that a majority of people were upset at Bowblax for not showing both sides, which is further from the case. As we know, DarkViper's fans are not above going after people critical of him or his analogies, flooding the comments sections with negative comments and hitting the dislike button with a sledgehammer to give off the impression that we all just dropped the ball on this one, to which DarkViper insists, was because he was right all along, and we were just simply wrong, which is the weakest of all of his arguments, as he doesn't take into consideration the toxic nature of his die-hard fans. He uses this lack of understanding to his advantage, which was the stem of his arguments against Achito, claiming the video to be a poor one because of the poor reception from Viper's chaotic fans.
I know nothing about this dude, but I do know that his video did not do particularly well, getting 30,000 views in 2 days and getting a lot of dislikes. Bruh. The comments were really not happy with his video. To summarize his video, I can use what Yorski is saying here. In his video, Achito says of me, I see what he did, I understand why he did it, I know he's legally and probably morally in the right for doing it, I don't agree with it. It says here, it's just unnecessary, sets a bad precedent.
But claims this to be poor reception from Achito's viewership instead, which is again disingenuous. Either you have to be the most gullible person on the planet to believe that the negative press was all from his own viewership, or a manipulative liar, using this deceit to bolster your own arguments and to further poison the well, which is also leaving things out of context to prove your dominance and superiority, forcing the viewers to rely on confirmation bias. It's just too bad that DarkViper can't prove himself without poisoning the well like this and using these sketchy tactics to try and defeat the opposition.
Such effort was taken to include no context that this sentence was copied from my essay, moved somewhere else, and then screen captured just to make sure no words surrounding it were included.
He then claims that Bowblax took the situation out of context, only showing a small side of the drama unfolding on Twitter. However, it was DarkViper that took Bowblax out of context here, when he could have done some research himself and investigated into the matter by using the advanced settings on Twitter, to which Bowblax shows what DarkViper refuses to show here.
Side of the argument in the last video about this, which I do apologize for. I should have searched harder for people advocating for DarkViperAu.
What do you mean search harder? Every post had people defending me. You didn't just not find them, you actively ignored them and lied to your audience.
What? No, I didn't. Literally, there was almost nobody defending you at the time. Okay. So, I'm obviously referencing in that post, Twitter versus DarkViperAu, part 1. It was uploaded on November 17th, and the first tweet that kicked all of this off, that is the basis of this video, is from November 11th. So I went and typed DarkViper for until November 17th from November 11th, right? So let's see how many are positive towards him. We have this Nicholas Diorio one. I have this one from me, Nicholas Diorio, someone just saying they're going to talk about it. So neutral. ChudLogic, Toastify against ChudLogic. Smaggle against ChudLogic. Me, someone just saying they like his content. Someone else just talking somewhat negatively about him. Pretty neutral, but it only had 5 likes. Big L from DarkViper, usually by jumping on, this from someone else just called DarkViper, that's not AU, so just ignore those, I suppose. Would be pretty dumb of DarkViper to make DMCA criticism against him. 3 likes. I typically only show tweets with more likes, so but the first video ended up being very, very much mostly against DarkViper. So I was on second thought, after reading the comments, I'm even though they had lower likes, I probably should have included some defending DarkViper, but still, generally, there wasn't even that many. ChudLogic isn't the only one clowning on DarkViper, as Nicholas Diorio.
The Nicholas Diorio? The guy's so fragile that he blocked me that time despite that we'd never spoken? This man's bringing in the big guns, mate. I'm done for.
Now this is the part I find very amusing, and I am so glad I took my time before making this video, as when he addresses Nicholas Diorio, he says he was so fragile that he blocked Viper despite never speaking to him, which is a statement that hasn't aged well. And this is something that DarkViper criticized Friendly Baron for, let's not forget about that little detail. But when push came to shove, He ended up blocking most of the commentary community on Twitter, myself included. Even people who hadn't even talked about his drama with ChudLogic, which shows him to be nothing more than a hypocritical coward. After calling Bowblax a liar for saying that there wasn't anyone defending DarkViper in the replies of the initial story in November of 2023, he moves on to Optimus, where he makes a point of Optimus being ignorant about his stance on reaction content, considering Optimus made a mention of watching his GTA 5 lore series, which it isn't a stretch to consider that maybe Optimus hadn't been interested in his war against the reaction content series, which is DarkViper not taking these factors into consideration before writing his scripts out.
I will never understand people who have never in their entire lives taken even a peek at the guidelines of fair use or read any of the relevant cases who seem very confident what is or is not defended by fair use. Merely adding to the length of the video does not constitute fair use. Let me just be lazy for once. Let's talk about fair use in regards to commentary and criticism as explained by Stanford. Commentary and criticism. If you are commenting upon or critiquing a copyrighted work, for instance, writing a book review, fair use principles allow you to reproduce some of the work to achieve your purposes. Some examples of commentary and criticism include quoting a few lines from a Bob Dylan song in a music review.
Okay, now he's citing one of the descriptions of what is considered to be fair use here, which this is from Stanford Libraries, which is very interesting as that website only shows 2 examples of what qualifies as fair use, or fair dealing, when there are in fact 7 examples, so 5 are missing here, and shows that he is using a source that doesn't give you the full picture of what is considered or qualified as fair use, fair dealing. He looks for a source that backs up what he says, but doesn't include the ones that debunk his arguments, like Jessica Vergel's document. Surely someone who has read all there is to know about fair use, to the point where he says he is well versed, would include a better source with more details than the source with a lack of details. The rest of the video is him spurging out about his massive pulsating brain. Best get that checked out, buddy. According to him, though, he is of a greater intelligence. Maybe he came from fucking Mars, who the hell knows at this point. Which I have to say, it must be nice living within your own delusion, your own little bubble of reality. Even documents he cites as part of his research contradicts his statements. And imagine being someone who claims to be so intelligent, when all they do to get the win is twist things like a bratty child, manipulate and twist the truth to suit your own agendas, and even cherry-picking the information that serves your own side rather than the broad picture. This guy is more manipulative than intelligent. But hey, that's part 2 of this series done, so join me on the next one where we look at the morality of DarkViperAu. A special thank you goes out to the PSEC members, Hammond, SithLord906, Killer1260V2, ArtGains, StabberOPSig, Bronze189, Ero Solano, and to the Legend members, Michael Boss, Hunter Biden's Laptop, and Afron2371. Your extra support helps me out so very much more. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all on the next one. And be sure to leave this video having a good one.